So what we're working on here today is my 1942 Ford 2N tractor, and you can tell it's a 2N because of the way that it is. Actually, my best guesstimate that it's a 2N is because of the wheels here and how they have that real big center there. And then when I actually look at the VIN serial number here on the side of the engine, even though it looks like it's been stamped multiple times, it looks like it's a late 1944 model, if those numbers are correct. So that's just kind of what I'm going with, is it's a late 1944 2N. I've got the front end loader extended way up here, because that makes it easier to get down in here, because today I am working on this rat's nest of an electrical system. So I just put new spark plugs in it the other day. And it still kind of runs like crap. And what I figured out by doing some volt testing and getting a spark tester running between one of the spark plugs and a ground, that it's not actually getting enough power to the spark plugs to run properly. When I got this tractor, it was running on a 12-volt battery. However, it still has this guy here that I believe is a 6-volt generator. I have no idea if the coil up in here is 6-volt or 12-volt. And like you saw in the wiring over here, it's just kind of a cobbled together mess up under here. The original ignition, you can see back up in that hole. The wires were cut. There was a switch put on the dash and then electrical taped into the ammeter there, and I think a resistor. And then that's wired into whatever this blue box is here. Don't know what it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a full 12-volt conversion on this guy. And I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that it runs better. So I'm going to start by just taking out the battery tray here and kind of the things that are attached to it. Because you probably saw it's got this part of a blue tie-down strap. That's what's been holding the battery in for a while now. So yeah, I'd rather not have that. And I ordered all the pieces for the new wiring kit, I think. I got some new actual battery hold downs. This is dry rotted, so it's probably going to fall out soon anyways. And yeah, we're going to go from there, see where we're at. So I'm back working out on the tractor today, and as you can see, the front end loader is down. When I left the other day, I didn't have the boards up underneath it, and went and got dinner, went and ran some errands, got dark, didn't come back out. And the next day when I came back out, it went from way up here to down about here. As you can see, the front end loader arms are kind of just in the way of where I need to get into here. So now I'm going to undo some of the work that I undid. So I'm going to redo some of the work I undid the other day and put some of this electrical stuff back together, hope that works, and then try to get this front end loader bucket back up in the air and out of the way. So whatever this dealy bob is, we're gonna try to put that back on. Hopefully these wires go back in the right order. All right, battery's attached. Now we cross our fingers, hope nothing starts on fire. In fact, I'm gonna go get a fire extinguisher, just in case. All right, fire extinguisher. Because electricity and I are usually not friends. Here goes nothing. Power's on. Nothing feels hot, like it's smoking yet. Alright. I still got all the spark plugs attached. We're at neutral. Alright, now the thing you never want to do is try to start the engine from in front of the wheel. Because if it's in gear, it goes, you get run over, bad day. But these tractors have an interlock in them, so they won't even try to start in gear, and I'm going to count on myself being quicker than the 80-year-old tractor. There, yeah. All right. Too easy. And nothing's on fire. Now it might not be warm enough for that hump on the front to really be going. It can also be low on fluid because it leaks a lot. So she's definitely low on fluid. All right, so what I wanted to do is just take all the pressure off of the hydraulic system and let that bucket rest on these guys so it doesn't sink down like it did before. So this dealy bopper here, take this cover off. It's got that inside. Y'all can see that. Sort of some kind of coil stuff. I don't know if this is some kind of crazy resistor or what, but I haven't tried Googling it either. We got bat, arm, and field labeled there. So yeah. So if you know what this Chingahoozits is, let me know in the comments, I guess. Like I said, I haven't Googled it yet. I don't know what it's for. And I haven't seen it on any of the schematics of how to wire this tractor. especially with the 12-volt system that I'm trying to put in. So, yeah. 5/8. No, 11/16. I can't count. So, well, I got a pile of tools in the little captain's chair up there. I got tired walking back and forth to the house, so I brought the whole toolbox. Make life a little bit easier, a little bit faster maybe. All right, there we go. Air cleaner system off the tractor. I got the fancy cyclone filter came on there. That was an added extra back in the day. And the only downside to it is it didn't have the piece on the bottom of this down tube here to attach the jar. So I got a little piece of radiator hose, a couple of hose clamps, and my own little jar, and made it work. There we go. All right, the next thing I'm going to try to do here is remove this sweet mess of a wiring harness. This is where that kind of blue box was attached with these three guys here. And this ground was just on that battery box when it was in here. You can see it just goes into this. And this, when it goes up into here, kind of comes off of the resistor that's built in up in here, and maybe the ammeter gauge that doesn't work. No, nothing's actually plugged into that ammeter gauge. So how does it know when we're getting power? That's okay. Cool. That's weird. But yeah, so this is our mystery bundle of goodness here. Some different wires that were cut, go different places. But yeah, this whole harness here is just going to come out. So let's make that happen. See if I can show you all what I'm working with here. So this guy is down here on that starter switch. That's also got the positive wire from the battery to it. Other side runs up here to the starter. And then this whole tangled mess of nonsense, that was my ground. These three guys here are what was in that blue box that I don't know what it is. And they just disappear into this rat's nest. They're all painted red, so that's super helpful. Then up in here, got the rest of this. So this round guy up in here, that's the back of the ammeter. That it's crazy it picked anything up. I guess it just feels it through this wire. This is our little switch. And then this, I think, is our resistor that I think is actually going to have to stay. So let's get that out. Now, if I were smart, man, bring that toolbox over here. Make my life a little easier. But I'm not. So smart people stuff. Let's bring the whole freaking toolbox over. Instead of 10mm. Let's see. Oh, smaller than that. Alright, now with that disconnected, come loose out of there. There is our wiring harness. Theory should be a lot more simple than a modern car. But since I don't know what any of it is, it's not. So here's, focus that resistor that was up inside up in here. And we can see that whole spring system there. Looks like it got hot, a little tweaked right there. And whatever piece is in the middle of it is broken. So we're gonna have to do some internet sleuthing, figure out if I even need this with the kit I got, but I think I do because the directions say put in the new resistor and use the old resistor. So yeah. All right, next thing we need to take off here is the old generator. Got a bracket on the motor, adjuster here. If I take off that adjuster, I should be able to get off the crustiest fan belt I have ever seen. And it might just look that way because somebody painted it red. So if you can see on here, we got red, we got kind of a tannish gray. There's a lot of blue. At one time, this whole tractor, I think, was blue. Because the blue seems to be under the red. And then at some point, somebody decided, I don't want it to be blue, I want it to be red. And did a absolutely fantastic job of painting it red. All right, well, the wind's picking up, so hopefully y'all can hear me okay. I'm gonna undo some of these bolts here, start working on the brackets. Oh no. Oh fuck. All right, that's new and exciting. So the bracket that's on the front of the engine that the generator tensioner went to, it's not a blind bolt. It goes into a water jacket. And I didn't know that. And I can't get it out because the tube for the spark plug wires is there. It's a good day. It's just a good day. And it's probably safe to assume that one's not blind either. So I'm gonna have to take those two off to get that off to get that off. Working on old stuff is fun. Please be blind. Please be blind. Please be a blind bolt. Pretty, 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 please. Nope. 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 So I'm starting to guess that none of the bolts in the top of the head are blind bolts. So I should have drained some of the water out of the radiator in the engine to start this. I didn't know that. So here we are. Stuff burbling up out of the top of my motor. It's fine. Everything's fine. All right. There's that spark plug tube. That had a lot of dirt in it. Imagine that. Hopefully we can reuse that. I gotta take that bracket off. I also have to undo the front throttle linkage bracket up here. I'm pretty sure. Because the old mounting bracket goes sideways, and the new one goes front and back. So I've got to use a different bolt. I'd show you, but hands are gross. So here's that bracket I was talking about. It's horizontal on the front of the engine, and the new one looks kind of like this and sits front to back on the engine. There's another bracket there, and it would seem every one of these bolts goes into the water jacket. Awesome. That's exciting. And just like that, it's been about 6 weeks. I haven't really worked on the tractor much. As you can see, the shed here got painted. A lot of work's been done, but nothing to the tractor here. It sits in the same condition it was before. So what we're gonna try to get today is this belt off of here. My problem is way down in here, right, if we can see it, the pulley right there in the middle that the belt goes around, as a piece that comes out the front of the tractor and connects to the pump right there. So that's the hydraulic pump to run this front end loader. As you can see, everything's sort of just like booger welded together. So there's a couple of bolts on the front of that pulley down in there that I'm gonna try to get undone. And if nothing else, get this belt out of here and get the new one in. Try to start getting the alternator mounted up in here. Sort of got that bracket done. I went and got some thread sealer for the head bolts up here that I took out, so I can put those back in with the thread sealer, and hopefully they haven't rusted too bad in like the last 6 or 8 weeks or however long it's been that this has all been sitting here. All right, little update here. So you can see, if it'll focus, which it won't, there's a bolt sticking out of the front of that pulley. The bolt is so long that, there we go, this bolt here, I can't get it out past the front of this guard, I guess. That's like the whole front of crankcase. So in rotating that back and forth, I figured out that this guy is loose inside that pulley. So now I'll pull these bolts out, and I think if I can take either this whole assembly off the pump, or maybe take the whole pump off the front of this plate, then I should be able to move. You can see that moves in there. I should be able to just pull that out, and that should solve all my problems, and I can put the one bolt I pulled out of the pulley back in, hopefully, and get that other bolt tightened in there, and then we can just do the belt. And this is a lot simpler than taking apart the front end of the tractor. All right, it worked. Get the front pump off. Now, this guy loose all the way out, pretty good shape. And now, plenty of space to get that belt out of there once I put all them bolts back together. All right, so the holes here in the little alternator bracket that actually mounts onto the engine, the holes here are not quite in the right spot, or these ears aren't long enough. The holes need to be extended down further, because what's happening is when the bolt's going in, it's kicking the bracket up like that, so the bolt won't go all the way through. So I'm going to use the little die grinder here and try to make those holes a little longer. Hot. All right, so we made that hole hopefully a little bit deeper in the right direction. We'll see. This is what we're looking at with that alternator bracket. Trying to get the bolt in. It's going to be really difficult one-handed. Come on. Come on. There we go. So before we were hitting kind of like this, but now that ground it down, now it'll go all the way in. Beauty, eh? Alright, this is probably where we're going to end it for the day. Got the alternator on, got the fan belt routed, and then I put the distributor crap and the old coil back on just to kind of seal things up from the weather. I have to go to the store because if this alternator will move, which it kind of won't now, that bracket down here, you can see that big old gap right there, and then I'm out of threads on the bolt that haven't been all gacked up from the old generator, so we're gonna try to get a new bolt. But I'm gonna try to put the whole front assembly back together and then probably call it a day, because this wind's getting to be a little ridiculous, blowing dust and dirt, and it's just not enjoyable. So hopefully it's not another 6 or 8 weeks before we do this again. So we're making some progress on the tractor here. What I've got going on, so I've got my wiring harness, and I actually went through and labeled everything. That's a really bad one to read because it's all folded up. Stuff like that there. So I went through the wiring diagram here, which is not the best quality to try to read and figure things out. So between that, a couple other diagrams off the internet, and a couple of videos, I figured out what all this goes to. Granted, It's not too terribly difficult. It's only like 6 wires. But making sure they go to the right things are important. Because I don't want to fry it. Because electricity and I are not friends. Next thing we're going to work on is the battery tray here. It's pretty nasty. Got a couple little rust holes in it. This here is where one of the arms for the battery hold down should go. Pretty twisted up. Maybe give it a little wire brush. Maybe give it a little zippy zap. Right there, right there. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to straighten that out. This side's a little leaned out there. So we're gonna straighten that, I think. That should work better. Let me take some of these like broken bracket pieces off. Maybe give it a little zippy zap, these holes. Wire brush it up, make it nice and clean. And then probably hit it with some tractor red, since the rest of the tractor's red and blue and tan and rust. Whatever. I want to work on this a little bit and see if I can't flatten that out some. It's really not focusing well. But yeah, see if that won't flatten out and smooth out. We'll see. Probably don't really have the right tools for this, you know, like a hammer and dolly, so just gonna kind of work with what I got. Oh, it's not perfect, but it's a zillion times better than it was. And one thing I really like about this, being kind of an old, beat up tractors, back in the 1940s, they didn't have all the fancy tools to fix this stuff. They just kind of did it in the field, and obviously this tractor has just been used, maybe a little abused, but being able to just fix stuff with hand tools, even if it's not perfect, and make it close enough, gives it more character, I think. I like it. If we can get that spot right there. I don't know. What do you guys think? Again, it's not not perfect. The whole thing's kind of got some swoop to it because it's 80 years old. But you know, better than it was. Here's that battery tray all painted up. Kind of the best I could get since the temperatures got cold. But I'm not looking for perfection, just trying to mitigate some of the rust. I did get excited. I forgot to fill these holes here with a little bit of weld. Kind of try to clean up that hole a bit, but I think it'll work just fine. But the main thing is it shouldn't rust anymore, at least not a lot. And we can put it back in the tractor, be ready to go. So we're back out working on the tractor, and it's been a few weeks again. I actually started this project in August, and it's January. So it's been a little while. We also had an earthquake, as you can see. The front end loader's not up on top anymore. That's great. It's going to make things a little bit more difficult to get into the sides of the tractor, but I think it'll be okay. We're going to try to get it finished, wired today, because I really need to use it, and I'd like to move it somewhere where I can cover it, because if we actually get some snow this winter, I'd like it to not be on the tractor. But the good news to the front end loader being down is now there's space for the tools that's not on the ground. All right, so the first thing we're going to work on is this new resistor here. And if I remember correctly, this is off of the Amazon, not the tractor store. So hopefully it works. But what I did notice are the holes here for the mounting, and the bolts that came with it are smaller in diameter than the ones that came off of it. I found those bolts, but I can't find the old resistor. I probably threw it away, I guess. So what we got to do is try to figure out if it will line up with the mounting brackets there, make the holes bigger, and start by mounting that guy. All right, well, it's not perfect, but it's in there. Bolts are in, holding it snug. That hole up above, that's where the old on-off toggle switch was, but I put a new keyed ignition in here. I like that better. So maybe someday that'll end up being a switch again for lights or something. Put like some big LED light bar on the front, but that's a project for another day. Now let's get that battery tray in, the wiring harness, new spark plug wires, and hopefully she'll run today. All right, now we got the wiring harnesses here. I've gone through a video and reacquainted myself with where everything goes, and how I have it all labeled here, so I know what things go to what. But one little thing we got to take care of first is this one here. Goes to a resistor, but it's got a spade terminal on it, and it needs a ring terminal. So we're going to cut that off, switch it out. Got a ring terminal that hopefully I won't have to take a drill bit to. It's got some heat shrink on it, try to keep it a little bit more weather safe. Let's go put this on the tractor. Well, here we are. The wiring harness is in. It's all routed, kind of the best you can do. Just kind of how loose some of this is. It is a universal harness for these tractors, so it leaves a lot A lot of excess for some of these. But I didn't want to go through and cut everything and recrimp and all that. But here we are up under the dash. Hopefully everything's wired the right way. Between the wiring diagram and a couple of videos that I watched from folks that do this for a living and sell the kit, hopefully it's done. Brand new spark plug wires routed down in here. The last thing to do is I'm going to get some zip ties and zip tie the wires to the little bail there that holds the coil, so the wires don't get into the fan belt or the fan belt pulley like they did the last time. And once that's done, that'll probably be about it for the night. This took a few hours to get it all in there, trying to make sure doing it right. And I've never put spark plug wires together before, but that was actually pretty easy. You measured out your wire. This is just a chunk of scrap. Took a razor blade, trimmed off a little bit, and then you stick this little guy here. It's got a hole in the middle. Stick it down over the end, so the little wire was sticking out, a little bit of the core there sticking out through the hole in the brass. Pinch this down on the wire. I'd fold the little bit of excess wire over so it was touching that little brass guy. Of course, as I did it, found out the fun way the first time. It's easier if you put the boot on the wire first, then the little brass guy. And that's really all there is to it. So some zip ties, especially on this side here. These guys really want to get into that fan belt if they can help it. And just about be ready to crank. Battery's on the tender, charging up. I want to wait till it's full before I start this process. And yeah, then we still got to get the air cleaner back on under there. So we'll get to that. Alrighty, here goes nothing. I got a battery and I got a fire extinguisher. Let's hope the first works and I don't need the second one. Something probably important to remember once you switch over to a 12-volt system is a 12-volt system is a negative ground. So the negative side of the battery cable goes to the frame or whatever to ground it. And what I learned is a 6-volt system is supposed to be a positive ground, which is completely opposite everything we do these days in cars and stuff. So that's probably why my generator was fried in the first place. Positive on. So just be careful when you're hooking it up. Make sure you're hooking it up the right way. Positive's on. Here comes the moment of truth. No sparks. That's good. Negative's on. Not going to clamp it down just yet. So I want to check and make sure nothing's going haywire. All right, so far none of my wires feel hot. Something that probably would have been helpful to bring out with me is the new key that I wired in. So I can't even begin to try to start it. I'll be right back. All right, keys. Moment of truth. All right, I think the ignition's on. Nothing's sparking. Nothing feels hot. We're in neutral. Bump it over. Ooh, that's not good. Why was that sparking like that? So, fun and interesting problem here. When I bump the starter, maybe. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So what was happening, I don't know if the battery just had so much juice, it looked like we were arcing between these two posts. I mean, everything's tight. The wires don't feel hot. Everything up in here appears to be okay. But we're at least turning over. So that's a good sign. Let's, I guess, give her some fuel. I'm gonna leave that negative cable a little loose. Maybe I need to snug that down a little bit. Maybe that's the problem, is that's too loose. But I want to be able to pull that cable off if something starts freaking out worse than what it was just doing. That's snugger. A little bit less than that. What did I tell you guys? Me and electricity, not friends. First thing it does is start freaking sparking and arcing all over the place. All right. So, oh boy. So I don't have the air cleaner system back on yet. You can see by this big old gaping hole right here. And obviously there's no hose on the carb. So I'm gonna go open up the fuel and let's see if this bad boy will run a little bit. Joke. All right, that's a good sign. Came to life. Ooh, that is a little warm. That's probably from cranking on it so much. That positive power cable's a little a little warm. All right. Well, it took a little fiddling with the carburetor, but we finally got the tractor running. Then we had to go to town, do chores, stuff like that. So it's cold again. We're gonna see how it starts up. Topped off all the fluids, the hydraulic fluid, radiator, and see how it goes. All right. Well, it's idling. I need one. Suppose after several months of sitting, all the fluid leaked out. So I don't want y'all to be discouraged, since it took me 6 months, I think, to get this done, because I had a lot of starts and stops and work on it for an hour and a half, 2 hours here, an hour there, with weeks in between. Just kind of the way the life was the last few months. Very busy. So yeah, this project shouldn't take nearly this long. I mean, working around the loader here and then having the whole hood front end together makes it a lot more difficult, but it's really not that hard. It's just need to have like 2 days to just do it. It'll be fine. Need more fluid. take it for a spin. Oh yeah. Well, that's it for this time on Any Given Garage. Probably needs a little carb tuning. I'm going to flip around the wires on the ammeter so it shows positive charging. But that's for later. Right now I'm going to go have fun. Until something, I guess. I don't know. See you guys next time.